Welcome back, Twisters, and hello there, newcomers. My name is Nick, and today I'm going to be talking about 10 reasons why hockey is the best sport to watch. So I'm sure a lot of you out there already watch the sport, and whether or not you're a casual fan or a diehard, I invite you to watch the rest of this video, but especially, I make this video for the newcomer out there, maybe the casual fan, people who have gone to a game or two before, because really, when it comes to hockey, it's got such a unique history, a unique culture, and a unique game itself. I think that it needs to be celebrated more, whether you're in the United States or in Canada or elsewhere around the world. I hope to, attract new hockey fans both to my channel and to the hockey community as a whole. So make sure you don't miss out on videos like these by hitting the red subscribe button down below and the notifications bell, okay? So before I actually get into my list, I thought I'd share just briefly how I myself became a hockey fan. I grew up on the coast in California, definitely not a hockey market. My friends growing up, they really weren't into the sport, but I went to about 1 or 2 San Jose Sharks games a year. They were about an hour away. And for me, it was really the experience of being there in an arena where all that noise is concentrated indoors. You have the sounds of the game, right? The puck dinging off the crossbar, the sounds of people getting up and cheering when the team scores a goal. Of course, fights were definitely something that entertained me. It wasn't necessarily the game itself. It was everything that was happening around it. And so I ended up going to college about 5 minutes away from the Shark Tank. And I grew even closer to the franchise and to my community in a sense there, being a Sharks fan. And I, shared that with a lot of my friends and made Sharks fans out of them. And then eventually I started following the league more and more to actually grow to love the league, to love its history, to love sort of the culture around hockey and how, some people grow up in these freezing cold climates and they're out there on a pond skating when they're 3 years old or even younger. So I wanted to learn more about that, learn the stories of it, and actually engage in that community even more. And so eventually that's how I ended up on YouTube talking about hockey. That's what my channel's all about. And even though I'm in the United States and have my own unique perspective, I hope that this video is only a catalyst to you maybe discovering other channels out there, watching other hockey leagues out there, maybe going to your rink to watch a local team practice, because there's so much just great positivity around the sport and around the culture, and I think that we can all help grow that even more. Okay, so now we're going to get into my top 10, and this is really in no particular order, so I'm going to start with reason number 1. It's one of the most unique team sports. Think about football, baseball, basketball. Everybody's always walking or running or something like that, whereas with hockey, everybody is skating. So in terms of your abilities to maneuver like that, in terms of your acceleration, in terms of stopping and starting and being able to shift around, it's so unique, right? So just the athleticism of these players. Some of the best players in the world are among the most agile on skates as well. So I think that really anchors the sport, right? Of course, the puck itself is different than a ball, like a baseball or a basketball, right? So it has kind of its own unique characteristics too, and how it interacts with the environment in terms of how it deflects off of the boards or how, someone is able to maneuver through tight spaces with it. So I think that's kind of reason number 1 right there. It's probably unlike a lot of sports that you watch. Reason number 2, and this is especially true at the NHL level, I think that there is just enough scoring. So it's not like basketball where the scores are, 123 to 116, right? It's not like soccer where a 2-to-1 game is considered high scoring in a lot of leagues out there. There's just enough scoring. It's kind of like this, right? When a goal is scored, that's almost like watching a home run in baseball in terms of the excitement or how often it happens. Maybe, okay, so it happens a little bit more in hockey, but nonetheless, we have a lot of games out there where the score is 4-3 or 3-2. Sometimes you get games in which a team can score 7 or 8 goals. Sometimes you get games that are 1-0, but overall, I think there's just enough scoring to really satisfy you out there. It's not as much of a muck and grind kind of game as it used to be about a decade ago or 2 decades ago. It's now a little bit more skill-based and certainly speed-based as well. Reason number 3, it produces some of the best moments in sports. So I think of last season when David Ayers, a 42-year-old who was a Zamboni driver to help kind of clear and recondition the ice, he was called in to essentially relieve an injured goaltender for the Carolina Hurricanes, and he actually stood in there and won the game. So this guy had no affiliation with them whatsoever other than being this emergency backup in the building on game day. He got called into the game about halfway through, and he made 8 saves to help the team actually win the game. So that was unbelievable right there. I think of how just the other day, it was Martin Luther King Day, and of course, it was also the anniversary of Willie O'Ree breaking the color barrier in the NHL, and he's still an ambassador to the game this day, even though he's in his 80s. He's just contributing to the community and the growth of the game in ways that just haven't been matched before. So he's doing a terrific job with that. And then, of course, I think especially for us Americans out there, 1980, the Miracle on Ice in which the United States defeated the Soviet Union in the Winter Olympics in the semifinals there. And ESPN in 2019 had their 40 greatest sports moments. That was number 1. So those are just a few tastes of the amazing moments that have happened in this sport, whether that's in the NHL or outside. Reason number 4, it may be traditionally a cold weather sport, but hockey is pretty much played anywhere these days. So for those of us in the United States, I think of leagues like the Southern Professional League and of course the NCAA and even the ECHL and how they're able to get hockey at a high level of play in non-traditional markets in places like Alabama and Florida and Arizona even. So I think that that's pretty unique right there. I think of my international travels. I've seen hockey in the Czech Republic. I've been to a game out there. I've been to an ice rink in New Zealand. And then I think of some of the other stories and articles I've read around hockey in Singapore and hockey in Kenya. Yeah, there's a national team there. And I think some members got to actually visit the Pittsburgh Penguins recently. So wherever you are in the world, there's probably some hockey pretty close to you. You might have to drive at the most a couple of hours, but I think that's about it. And then I also think of some of the best players in the NHL and how they've come from non-traditional markets. Guys like Austin Matthews, who grew up primarily in Arizona. Seth Jones for the Columbus Blue Jackets. He grew up primarily in Dallas and in Colorado. And then I think of JT Miller, who was originally from Ohio. So those are usually the non-traditional markets in the United States. So I think it's pretty interesting how hockey is growing. Yeah, it might not get all the publicity or the credit, but like I said, it's around you. You just have to look it up, and I'm sure you're going to find something out there. Reason number 5 why hockey is the best sport to watch is because of the in-person experience right there. It's just fantastic. It's intense. It's passionate. You don't necessarily get that with other sports out there. I know that like internationally, soccer, right? Matches are so fun because people are chanting and cheering the whole time. Hockey, it doesn't happen all the time, but it's still fairly frequently when comparing it to other popular sports in, I would say, North America, for example. So I think that that has something strong going for it. Of course, just the sounds of the game, right? The sounds of the game, the sticks on the ice, the puck dinging off the crossbar. I think of, when a fight breaks down or just the very spontaneous moments that generate so much intensity from the fans. That's something I've always loved ever since I was a kid, and I don't really get tired of it all that much, especially when the postseason rolls around, the playoffs. Is there anything like playoff hockey out there? No, I think absolutely not. I think that takes the cake as the best sports experience anybody can have. Reason number 6, aesthetically, it's very pleasing. So when watching a game, you can't just help but oogle over some of the jerseys that are out there. Of course, the logos, some iconic logos behind me right here with the original 6 clubs, including the Red Wings right here. The helmets are really flashy and interesting, right? The uniforms are altogether pretty compelling. You have some teams that really embrace their heritage and their roots, like the Montreal Canadiens and the Boston Bruins, of course. And then you have newcomers like the Vegas Golden Knights, and they have such a unique take on aesthetics in comparison to these clubs behind me right here. It's so much fun watching these teams just because of what they're wearing out there on the ice, from their helmet to their jerseys to their gloves, their pants. Everything just looks really interesting out there. Definitely more interesting than baseball, I would say. Although the baseball hat is quite, iconic. But buy yourself a hockey jersey, you won't be able to take it off. Unless you're collecting other jerseys like many of us do. Reason number 7. Hockey lends itself to some of the most intense moments in sports. So think about this with, football or with soccer, all right? When there's a penalty or a foul, what happens, right? The other team gets a free kick or they get a few extra yards in their favor, or maybe in basketball, you get a couple of free throws, right? When your team commits a penalty in hockey, they actually lose a player on the ice for a certain period of time right there. So there's an actual mismatch, a 5-on-4 or a 5-on-3 sometimes. So that creates some of the most intense moments when it comes to power plays or penalty kills. There are breakaways, right? So actually, this was really interesting because yesterday, there was the Pittsburgh Penguins against the Capitals. So the Penguins only had 3 players out there. The Capitals had 5. But the Penguins actually scored a goal. It was amazing. It was a breakaway, right? So it's just one skater coming in as fast as he can against the goaltender. Some of the most intense moments you'll ever see there. Overtime, at least in the NHL, is 3 versus 3 instead of 5 versus 5. So it's a lot more open-ended, right? And so you get a lot of odd man rushes, you get a lot of breakaways. So I think that's super cool. Of course, you have fights once in a while, and the very rare line brawl where you see just teams emptying their bench, or you see 5 players out there fighting 5 of their opponents. So you just can't match that when it comes to other sports, I don't think. Reason number 8 why hockey is the best sport to watch. It's already made its mark on mainstream culture, especially for those of you who aren't so into the sport. Think about this. Have you ever heard the phrase, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take? That's actually from Wayne Gretzky. It wasn't from Michael Jordan or anybody else. Think about Charles Schultz, the creator of the Peanuts Gang comic strips. Many of them were actually based from hockey, and he's actually in the United States Hockey Hall of Fame right there. Think about characters in film and TV, like in Seinfeld when you had Patrick Warburton as David Putty. Or think about in Wayne's World, right, when Wayne and Garth are out there in the street playing hockey, okay, wearing the Blackhawks jerseys. Or think about Casey Jones or Jason Voorhees, right? Hockey is part of their getup right there. So I think it's in our mainstream culture more than people really understand and realize. So just pay attention to that, because there are definitely a lot of prominent figures out there who express their love of hockey in creative ways. Reason number 9, and this is mostly specific to the NHL, but in some other leagues as well. See, when you win the Super Bowl, for example, or you win the World Series, you get a trophy, okay? And that trophy usually is about the same from year to year. So, maybe the Patriots win the Super Bowl, they get a trophy, and the next year, maybe the Buffalo Bills win the Super Bowl for a change, and they get a trophy, okay? But for hockey, it's about one trophy, the Stanley Cup. And think about this. When your team has survived in the postseason for 2 months, just 2 months of postseason play right there, 16 games, all scraggly with their beards and hair and whatnot, when they win the Stanley Cup and they hoist it, that cup is the same one that was hoisted by Gordie Howe, Wayne Gretzky, Bobby Orr, Mario Lemieux, the greatest figures that the sport has ever had. And you have played your whole life, for a couple of decades, just to be able to hoist that trophy just like they did. And that trophy has their names on it, and guess what? Your name is going to be inscribed on it as well. That's what these players have dedicated their lives to. Isn't that unbelievable? To me, that really is. I think that is one of the most iconic things about the National Hockey League and about hockey as a whole. It's about playing for that one trophy that gets passed around to various teams, that visits countries around the world. It is remarkable, absolutely. So the Stanley Cup is really just a linchpin when it comes to really understanding the history and the culture of the game. And the history of the cup itself is quite interesting at that too. And my final reason why hockey is the best sport to watch, even if you don't have a lot of friends who watch it, you could have a lot of friends by hanging out here with us. The YouTube community and just the digital hockey community is great. It's growing. There are many different contributors out there who are from various parts of the United States, Canada, and beyond, even in the UK, of course. I'm just one of the voices out there, but it's been an absolute pleasure connecting with people all over the world. I've had viewers that I've interacted with who live in New Zealand and Australia, people who live in the UK and in Germany as well, and some other countries here and there too. And I just want to connect with more people all over the world who have a love for this game, even if they don't watch the same league that I do, even if they don't watch the same teams that I do. And if you just come on YouTube here and you watch channels like my own, or Post to Post, or Hands Down Hockey, or The Hockey Guy, there are dozens upon dozens of creators out there who are looking to, I think, create their own sort of voice for how they appreciate the sport and how they connect with others. So even if you're not going to always have conversations with your closest friends around the sport of hockey, there are many out here, right here in the comments section and elsewhere in the YouTube sphere, who love this game and want to share their love for that game with you. I'm just one of them. Anyway, guys, that's going to conclude our series as to why hockey is the best sport to watch, and I thank you so much for joining me on this one. Make sure if you have some friends out there who might want to get into the sport that you share this video with them, and let me know down in the comments below what's the main reason why you're a hockey fan. I already shared my story, but I'm curious to know yours. Make sure if you haven't already, you hit the subscribe button, hit the thumbs up, helps others like you discover this channel. and let's have some more conversations around hockey throughout the season, through the postseason, and beyond. Thanks so much for tuning in, everybody. Once again, my name's Nick. I'll catch you later. Ciao.